When we play defense, we live in fear. We make decisions based on avoiding failure instead of pursuing our successes. When we play offense, this means that we're leading with intention. We're leading with confidence. We're taking bold action. We're not all worried about the perfection because all we're going to do is continue to make progress. And even when we don't have all the answers, we continue to put one foot in front of the other. It's not about having a perfect plan. It's about having a clear direction and the willingness to take that action forward. All right, we are in the third week of March for Moxie Uncut. And if you're joining us for the first time ever, this used to be called the Moxie Podcast. Obviously, Moxie is still a part of our name. We decided to kind of a little bit of rebrand. I mean, we always every now and then refresh the thumbnail and the look, but we decided to do Moxie Uncut because this whole year it's just me and you. I normally bring on guests, normally do interviews, and this year I decided to take all the lessons that I learned last year. Every week I put out a newsletter, so let me back up. Every week I put out a newsletter called The Weekly Wild. If that's something that you'd like to be on, you can subscribe. That's in the show notes. You can also go to jennynuccio.com and learn all about it. Or even find me on Instagram, and I share about it as well too. But every week I tell you just kind of what's happening during my week. And when I do that, I also give a weekly wild lesson. And with that weekly wild lesson, it like ties into the story, of course, of what's happening that week. So I said, what better yet than to do a long form, a little bit of a long form with the weekly wild lessons from 2024, bring them back into this year and get to expand on them a bit. I don't necessarily share the exact story that was happening in 2024, but I share some insight of what I feel that lesson is and how it affects me still today. So this whole month, we've been talking about resilience in action. And the reason why we've been really honing into resilience is this idea that really resilience comes after failure. Resilience comes and is learned through experience. And so we aka me and us at Moxie, really wanted to push forward and give you kind of these uncut versions of my life throughout the whole entire year. And so today we're going to really push forward into resilience even more. And if you haven't listened to the first two episodes of March, I encourage you to go back and listen. But today's episode is really going to be talking about taking charge of your life instead of just reacting to it. This is a little bit of like, I guess, proactiveness, but this idea that we want to play the offense, not defense. And so one of the weekly wild lessons from last year was play the offense. And I think this is really important. I think a lot of times we're reactive. A lot of times we're not defensive in the wrong way of like, ooh, I'm mad and I'm getting defensive. Not in that way. We're just not being as proactive as we should be. And so that is what I want to encourage you today, is to be proactive rather than reactive. It's about moving forward with purpose instead of just responding to whatever life throws at you, kind of being, again, on guard and playing the offense. And so many times in our life, we're in this defensive mode. We're waiting kind of for the next problem. We're reacting to the next challenge. We're adjusting based on what is expected of us. But what if we flip that? I guess that's, my question that I want to start with today. What if we flip that and we said, okay, we're going to focus forward. We're going to take intentional steps. We're going to stop just surviving and we're going to start thriving. I'm going to start with a really vulnerable story. And I'm not even, to be honest, sure if it's fully formed or ready to share. But 2024 was extremely hard. Actually, the last 2.5 years have been quite difficult. Personally, I feel I have learned, I've grown as a leader and as an individual. I've become more patient and more resilient and more present. And if you're a business owner, then you probably have felt this. If you're an entrepreneur and you've even started your business in the last 3 to 5 years, then you definitely have felt this. But there was just tension. There was tension after COVID. We felt kind of this after effect, this ripple that wasn't necessarily good. Actually, in most cases, especially if you were an e-commerce brand, or you were a brand that had a really cool story behind it, and in the artisan field especially, you most likely grew in 2020. People were reacting differently to the way they consume things. They were paying more attention. They didn't have much better to do than to be scrolling on Instagram, being very present in Facebook, in their socials, learning about what we were doing around the world. Now, what tended to happen in that is we took 2020, we projected from that. As an entrepreneur, as a business leader, that's something we do. We project, and we project for the sake of us knowing our growth, for the sake of planning for inventory, and also just for the sake if we need investment. Our investors need to know, okay, what does this company look like and where is it going? So that's what I did. And a lot of my friends did that as well. We grew, well over 120% or something like that in 2020. We continue to grow in 2021. 2021 was our biggest year yet. And then we came to 2022. The reality of 2022 is we had a really good year. It wasn't, we're starting to get stagnant, but we had still a really good year. The issue and challenge with 2022 is we had a very significant overhead. And so I feel in my bones from, 2022, I've just really been in a reactive state of like, oh my gosh, we're in an emergency. Oh my gosh, I need to pay this person. Oh my gosh, how are we going to make payroll? Oh my goodness, what's the next product we're going to make? Just kind of continuing to react. And then I was opening my Bible the other day, really throughout the last couple of years, and landing on Proverbs. And in Proverbs 4:25 through 26, it says, let your eyes look straight ahead. Let your eyes look straight ahead. Fix your gaze directly before you. Give careful thought to the paths for your feet and be steadfast in all your ways. I said, okay, let my eyes look straight ahead. And at the same time in scripture, it says, lean not on your own understanding, but give that to him. Give those burdens to him. God is with us in everything that we do. And he is opening doors. He is showing us spaces. It's whether or not we're available to see those things. And when we react, when we continue to react and we don't have time and we're just surviving and we're reacting and we're taking it day, hour by hour, really, it is very hard to see what is 10 steps ahead of us. It's very hard to keep the vision alive when we're just surviving. And so we need to play the offense. We need to be ready for what is ahead. What I should have done in 2022 is looked ahead and saw where we were going to be in 2024. But this was another issue. And so this is me being extremely vulnerable with you all. Is I had an ego and a pride thing. The artisan space, especially in social good, is about impact numbers, right? We look at numbers, we want to see growth. And I have a friend in this space, and she listens to this podcast too, so I hope she's listening. But I remember we were having a conversation. I was doing these Wild Soul Collective groups. She was in one of those groups, and she was talking about her impact. And she was talking about, like, what does it look like to grow? Like, where am I going to be? And my question to her was like, well, are you sustainable, like, with who you impact? And she was like, well, absolutely. And I'm like, how many people do you impact? 6 women. 6 women, and a ton of other brands. Like, she's purchasing, we're one of the brands she purchases from as well. We love her as a customer. And I was like, well, then you've made it, really. You've made it, because we have to redefine what scalability looks like, what profitability looks like, what success looks like. That is only defined in the beholder, really, of the founder and where they see the vision, or whoever the owner is. Like, what does that look like for you? And we need to stop comparing ourselves to other people. And I think for the longest time, I was like, man, I need to keep hitting numbers. At one point, we had 160 artisans and staff, full-time salary, month to month. You can imagine, not only that, but I had 8 full-time staff in the States. We had a warehouse in Dallas. You can imagine the overhead that took month over month. It was bananas. It was bananas. But because we had investment and cash flow, we made mistakes. I had amazing mentors telling me, you need to stop. You need to retrench. You need to make hard decisions. And I chose not to, because I wanted to continue to grow and I wanted to see us to be successful. I also was still getting over this nonprofit mindset, because for the longest time, and for the 8 years before we became a hybrid and into a business and transitioned in that way, we had donations. So I didn't have to think as strategically per se of like, okay, where is this dollar going to come from and what does that look like? And at the end of the day, I should have taken the advice I gave my friend of like, oh, you have 6 people that you're impacting. That's amazing. But I think the scariest thing for me was, again, letting people go and what that looked like. And so I was like continuously reactive. And what I needed to do was focus forward. I needed to take intentional steps forward. I needed to stop surviving. We needed to get to a place of thriving. And in order to do that, I had to make hard decisions. The reality of my journey in the last 2 years is I had to make those hard decisions because we were put into a corner. If I would have made those decisions earlier, it might look a little different today. When I look back, do I change anything that I did? Do I wish I would go back and do that? I don't, because I don't really live a lot with regret. I don't look back and really sit in that and feel like, man, if only I did that. Because also there was maturity that happened in the last 3 years, that we learned so much about our systems that even if I retrenched at that time and I let go of the 100 artisans that I had to let go over the 2 years that we went through, I don't know if we were ready for it. I don't know if we were ready for it. In our team, we retrenched. We have no one that is in the States under our business. Everything, all of our leadership and everything is in Kenya. We fully centralized our operations in Kenya. We have 60 individuals that we employ full time, and that's amazing. And I'm so happy. And if we grow, if we get to a place where our capacity is tapped and we need to grow, we will grow. But we're going to grow in a way that makes sense, because now we're in a space that we can make those decisions. We can vision again, because we're not merely surviving, we're looking forward. Do I like that that's part of my story? Do I like that we had to let go of 100 people? Do I feel as a leader I have failed those people every day? Now, what I had to remind myself in this is that these are God's children. These are God's children, and He's going to protect them and provide for them and open up opportunities for them. I am not their provider. I can plant the seed, I can be there, I can encourage, I can comfort, I can pray over, but I'm not that. I'm not their God, and I don't need to play God, right? And so I think in that too, as a founder, and in a founder that in a space where you make a lot of impact, I also have to remind myself I am not in control. And I have strived and I've strived and I've strived for so long. And I had to surrender to Him and say, okay, God, you got this. You got this. But in order to do that, I had to stop waiting. I was waiting and I was waiting in 2022 for something bigger to happen. When the reality is our sales were good, but they were steady. And I should have taken those steady projections and acted within them. So instead of waiting, I should have moved. I should have moved faster. And so I want to encourage you today, whatever that might be, and it might not have nothing to do with business. It might be an idea you have. It might be something in motherhood with your kid, and you're seeing them, and something they need to be or want to be a part of. It might be in your marriage. It might be in anything, right? I want you to think outside of the box. So if you are not an entrepreneur and you're listening to this, I want you to think outside of the box of like, what do you continuously like wait for? And if you're continuously on the defensive, why are you waiting for the world to like come at you? I think sometimes when we think, oh man, life is so good, we think, oh my gosh, something bad has to happen. The universe has to be in alignment. So something bad is now going to happen because so many good things are happening to me. Truly, I know many of you think that, but why? Why are we thinking that? Why aren't we thinking in positive light? Why aren't we giving it to God? Why aren't we again visioning for the future instead of just waiting until that next thing is going to happen or that next opportunity is going to land into our lap? Because we still have to work. We were always called to work. We're always called to work. We're always called to move forward. It's just what does that look like for us? And are we going to continue forward, right? Continue forward in that. So I want you to think through that and kind of think through, what are you waiting for, right? What are we waiting for? Because I think a lot of times when we're waiting, like we're waiting for the perfect moment, right? I think that's one of our biggest mistakes. We're waiting for this perfect moment before taking any action. I know a lot of the biggest advice that any entrepreneurs will tell you is like, don't wait till it's perfect, right? Don't wait for the perfect timing. Don't wait for the perfect prototype. Just progress, just start, right? And so I think many days we'll tell ourselves, I'll start when I feel ready. I'll take risk when I think things have calmed down in my life, or I'll move forward when I feel that the timing is right in my place. Whether you're a mom, you have a newborn. I mean, I remember my 20s. It's crazy looking back at it, because I remember like people are always like, whoa, you did so much in that little time. And Granted, I give it all to my husband because he was such an amazing support system for me. And I know that I couldn't have done what I did without him, right? So for anyone who is a single mother, I lift you up. I lift you up and I hope you feel encouraged and understand you're strong and it's okay when days are hard because to have the support system, I know I was privileged in that fact that I had my husband and he was supportive. But at the same time, I didn't wait for things to kind of fall into place. I just kept pushing forward. So I knew the right time. I knew it was the right time. I knew it in my gut when it was to start my doctorate. This was a very interesting doctorate because it was a fully online EDD. It's a doctorate of education. I did the same things that our PhD counterparts did. We just weren't on campus, so we didn't get the PhD, but EDD, same thing. In the scholarly world, that means a lot. But EDD, same thing. And I got to push through. I got to do my research. I got to do all those things. But this is what's really interesting with the story. In my gut, I knew I needed to start. Timeline wise, it made absolutely no sense. I was not only had a 1 year old, but I was pregnant. Had a 1 year old and I was pregnant. When I started my program, Jaden was one. When I finished my program, I had two children in that program, and my son was six. So, was he six? Yeah, six. I mean, it was a good 5 years that it took me from start to finish. Crazy enough, this was I think we were cohort eight. I should know this, cohort eight. And we were the last cohort for this program. They accepted cohorts every 2 years. We were the last cohort that they accepted in 2017, period. And the program ended. If I wouldn't have been ready, or if I would have told myself I'm not ready to do this, I would have missed the opportunity. There was not another opportunity in that field, in what I wanted to do, in the professors I wanted to work under at that time. I would have missed the opportunity. But I said, okay, I'm going to move forward. The truth is here, and I want you guys to hear this. Here's the truth. If you're always waiting, if you're always waiting, you'll always be reacting to life instead of leading it. If you're always waiting, you're just going to be reacting to your life instead of leading it. Playing offense means taking bold actions. Even when you feel uncertain, it means continuing to move forward, even when the fear is there. So today I want you to take these bold actions. I want you to think of, okay, what's this courageous step that I can take? What's something that I've been wanting to do and how can I continue forward? If you keep waiting for the right conditions, you'll never move. And the best time is to just start now. Just start now. Go with the gut, trust your intuition, and I'm telling you, you will not be disappointed in that. The other thing that I want you guys to know is control what you can and release what you can. I think this is this idea of this striving and surrendering that I was talking about earlier. Playing offense doesn't mean controlling everything, but it does mean knowing what's in your power and what's not in your power. So I truly believe, well, actually, no, this is biblical. We were talking about this in my Bible study this week, and we were talking about Adam and Eve. They were put on earth to work, like work the garden, cultivate the earth, like make the next generation. Like we were meant to work. We weren't meant to sit here and just say, okay, make it happen, God. Now, I truly believe in faith, and I know, I mean, my faith is so integral into my life and my testimony and what I do. And so faith is a big part of who I am. And at the same time, I know what I have control of. I know the innate talents God has given me. I know how I need to move forward. And there are other moments where I know, okay, God, man, if something's going to happen, this is all you. This is all you. So we need to know what we can control, what is in our control, and then we need to give ourselves permission to let go of some things because so many of us waste our energy and we waste our time reacting to things that aren't in our control instead of taking action to what really is. And so when we're looking at resilience, again, this whole month is resilience in action. True resilience comes from focusing on what you can influence and letting go of the rest. Focus on what you can influence. Focus on what you know you can have a ripple effect in and let go of the rest. Because there are so many unknowns of this world. I mean, life is so short. And the last couple of weeks, I have not only seen multiple of my friends, close down their businesses, but I've also seen multiple of my friends get diagnosed with cancer, like lose a sibling. It's been a interesting grieving season for me, and I just there are things that we just don't know. There's so many unknowns. We don't know what tomorrow brings. We shouldn't worry about yesterday, but we can be in the present. We can be present with God, and we can be present with ourselves. We can be present with our family. We can be present with our business, and we can also, again, not be defensive in it and know what we can control. Philippians 4:6-7 says, "Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your request to God, and the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus." This verse has been a saving grace for me. It's almost been just like a lifeline for me in the last month. Like, do not be anxious about anything, Jenny. I've been really anxious about things that are really out of my control, but do not be anxious about that. Peace comes when we stop trying to control the uncontrollable and instead we take ownership of what we can. I'm going to be a good, true Kenyan here and repeat that because I think this is so good. Peace comes when we stop trying to control the uncontrollable and instead take ownership of what we can. There are things you cannot control. And God says, leave it to me. Leave it to me. I'm giving you permission today to leave it to Him. The last thing with resilience and just, again, playing this offense instead of being on the defense is lead with intention, not with fear. When we play defense, we live in fear. We make decisions based on avoiding failure instead of pursuing our successes. When we play offense, this means that we're leading with intention. We're leading with confidence. We're taking bold action. We're not all worried about the perfection because all we're going to do is continue to make progress. And even when we don't have all the answers, we continue to put one foot in front of the other. It's not about having a perfect plan. It's about having a clear direction and the willingness to take that action forward. I would say most of my life is this. I'm probably one of the riskiest individuals my husband has ever met in his life, and most of my friends have ever met. I think to be a good entrepreneur, you have to take risks. Some risks are a bit scarier than others. But if you really want to see what you can do in this world, step out, step on the ledge, step on the ledge, and know that when you jump, you will have a soft landing. And if it's not a soft landing, we talked about this last week. It's okay. Failure does not define us. It just becomes part of our learning experiences and how we get up and how we start to continue to move forward again. So courage isn't the absence of fear. Like in order to move forward, in order to make these bold actions, in order to quote unquote not have fear and lead with intention, right? You have to have courage, but courage isn't the absence of fear. It's the decision to move forward despite it. You're always going to feel that emotion. And my hope is you continue to get up and you continue to move forward. So today I want you to stop waiting. I want you to start moving. I want you to understand what you can control and release what you can't. Focus on what's in your hands, let go of what's not, and lead with intention, not fear. Because bold actions are the ways that we can move forward, are the ways that we can continue to build resilience, are the ways that we can play offense and not defense. I'm always so thrilled that you spend time with me here. It just, it delights my soul that you spend time, whether you're running, walking, in your car, washing dishes, sitting at your desk. I don't know exactly what you're doing, where you are in this world, but I'm grateful that you're part of the Moxie community. And we've been now around for 6 years, which is just wild sometimes to think about. But I ask that if this episode resonated with you, we want this community to grow. We want friends to get this message. If there's someone out there that just might really, really need this and you feel it's going to be encouraging to them, please send it their way. Tag me on Instagram with your biggest takeaway. I would love to hear that from you. I just would love to hear from you. But step into your week being courageous, step in your week being bold. And as always, friends, Moxie on.